For a long time, I believed I was doing everything right. I believed that being a mother meant providing, protecting, and loving in visible ways. I cooked dinner every night. I attended parent-teacher meetings. I made sure homework was done, clothes were clean, and bedtime kisses were never skipped. I believed that if something was wrong, I would know. I believed pain announced itself. I believed love was always enough. I didn't understand that sometimes pain learns how to stay quiet, and sometimes love needs to listen harder. My daughter Emily was 13 years old when I almost lost her without realizing it. When I think back, I don't remember a single dramatic moment where everything suddenly changed. There was no explosion, no clear warning, no obvious turning point. There was just a slow fading, like color draining from a photograph over time. And because it happened so gradually, I didn't notice until it was almost too late. Emily used to be a child who filled space. She talked constantly, laughed loudly, and asked questions about everything. She narrated her days like stories, complete with details I sometimes didn't have the patience to hear. She loved drawing, loved music, loved sitting beside me in the kitchen while I cooked, and telling me about things that felt very important to her. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have a child who trusted me with her world so easily. That trust didn't disappear overnight. It slipped away quietly. It started with silence at the dinner table. At first, I thought she was just tired. School was demanding, adolescence was confusing, and everyone said moodiness was normal at her age. Then, the silence became routine. Her answers grew shorter, her laughter faded. She started retreating to her room the moment she came home, closing the door behind her. Eventually, the door started locking. I noticed the changes, but I didn't understand them. Or maybe I did, but I was afraid of what they might mean. Every time I asked if something was wrong, she told me she was fine. And every time I chose to believe her, because believing her meant I didn't have to face the possibility that my child was suffering right in front of me. Mornings became quiet rituals. She woke up, dressed without speaking, grabbed her backpack, and left for school. Afternoons were worse. She came home looking exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, like someone who had been carrying something far too heavy for far too long. Sometimes I caught her staring at nothing, her eyes distant, as if her thoughts were somewhere I couldn't follow. At night, I heard her crying in the bathroom, softly, carefully, like she didn't want anyone to notice. When I knocked and asked if she was okay, she told me she was just tired, and I let it go. I told myself I was respecting her privacy. I told myself she would talk when she was ready. What I didn't realize was that silence had become her armor, and she was wearing it even around me. The day everything changed was painfully ordinary. I came home earlier than usual, the house empty and quiet. Emily wasn't home yet. Her backpack was on the couch, half open, like she had dropped it without thinking. I picked it up to move it out of the way and immediately noticed how heavy it felt. Too heavy. My body reacted before my mind did. Something tightened in my chest. I stood there holding the bag, arguing with myself. Parents aren't supposed to invade privacy. Trust matters. Respect matters. I almost put it back down. Almost. But something inside me whispered that I had ignored too many signs already. I unzipped the backpack. At first, everything looked normal. Books, pens, a lunch container she hadn't emptied. Then I noticed the torn papers. Homework ripped apart, crumpled with a kind of anger that felt out of place. Underneath them was a phone I didn't recognize, its screen cracked badly. Emily wasn't allowed a second phone. She had never mentioned one. My hands started to shake. Near the bottom of the bag was a small medicine bottle with her name on it. Anxiety medication, prescribed weeks ago, prescribed without me knowing. My heart began to pound so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I felt dizzy, like the room was tilting. Then I saw the folded paper. It was creased again and again, folded so small it could disappear between books. I sat down on the couch because my legs no longer felt reliable. I unfolded the paper slowly, almost afraid to read it. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. I feel invisible. I don't want to wake up anymore. Please don't tell Mom. I read it over and over, hoping my brain would correct my eyes. It didn't. This wasn't teenage exaggeration. This was a child who had run out of ways to ask for help. I pressed the paper to my chest and cried in a way I didn't recognize, a deep, broken sound that came from fear, guilt, and love, all at once. When the front door opened and Emily walked in, everything changed. She froze when she saw me sitting there with her backpack open. Her face went pale. She knew. She knew that I knew. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. I said her name softly, and that was enough. She collapsed in front of me, sobbing as if something inside her had finally given up holding itself together. I pulled her into my arms, and she clung to me like she was afraid I might disappear. That night, she told me everything. She told me about the bullying, how it started small, how comments turned to jokes and jokes turned to cruelty, how people laughed when she walked past, how photos were taken without her permission and shared online, how messages followed her home, lighting up her phone late at night with words that cut deeper than she knew how to explain. Ugly, weird, worthless. She told me she felt invisible sitting alone at lunch, how exhausting it was to pretend she didn't care. She told me she didn't want to be a burden. That sentence broke me more than anything else. The idea that my child believed her pain was something she had to hide to protect me shattered my heart. I held her and apologized again and again, not because it was my fault that she was being hurt, but because I hadn't seen her sooner. I promised her that things would change. I promised her she would never face this alone again. The days that followed were difficult in ways I hadn't prepared for. Meetings with the school, conversations with counselors, long nights where sleep felt impossible. Healing wasn't quick or simple. Some days were better, some days felt like setbacks. But slowly, very slowly, things began to change. Emily started therapy, she started drawing again, she joined an art club, she made one friend, then another. Her smile returned in pieces, fragile but real. I learned how much damage silence can do, and how important it is to listen even when answers are uncomfortable. One evening, months later, I found her at the kitchen table drawing quietly. She looked up at me and smiled, really smiled, and said, "Mom, thank you for opening my backpack." I turned away so she wouldn't see me cry. That backpack had carried the weight of her pain for far too long. Opening it didn't fix everything, but it broke the silence, and sometimes breaking the silence is what saves a life. If you're a parent, please look closer, ask again, listen longer. And if you're a child watching this, feeling invisible, please know this: you matter more than you think. You are not a burden, and you don't have to whisper forever.